Awesome, we made it. So everybody, Quincy, he has stayed in Guangzhou for about 7 years, so he could speak Chinese. So everybody, let's say 你好 to Quincy, okay?
Hey, 大家你好.
Okay, now it's your time. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, first of all, thank you very much for letting me come here. I'm so grateful to Mia and Jack and Cece and everybody who's helped me with this process. And I'm so thrilled to be here with you all. I wish I could fly over and actually be there in person. But I have a young baby, and she's running around destroying my house. So I have to make sure she doesn't destroy everything, otherwise we'll get in trouble. So I have a short talk that I'm going to share my screen, and please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Quincy Larson with Free Code Camp. I'm thrilled to be here at DevRelConf virtually through the internet, but I'm thrilled to be here nonetheless. And today I'm going to be talking about helping society progress through building an open source community. So let me start off by telling you a little bit about Free Code Camp. I started Free Code Camp about 30 months ago, and my goal was to build an effective way for anyone to learn to code well enough to get a developer job. That means that someone who perhaps had studied a different degree, maybe they'd studied English, maybe they'd studied business, but they could sit down at their computer as they were available based on whether they're off work or whether they've just put their children to bed. They could sit down and they could learn to code right on their laptop in their kitchen table or in a cafe or a public library, wherever they happen to be. So Free Code Camp started in my closet. I sat down, I built a prototype, and I launched it. And I blogged a whole lot, and eventually some of my articles made it to the top of Y Combinator's Hacker News website. I don't know if you're familiar with Hacker News. It's a news aggregator where anyone can submit an article and then people will upvote it and downvote it. It's similar to Reddit, if you're familiar with Reddit. So a lot of people were reading my blog posts and they came to Free Code Camp. And I was able to take this influx of new campers, which is what we call people who use Free Code Camp, and I was able to hang out in our chat rooms and convince them to stick around and not leave Free Code Camp so that we could gradually build up this community of people who were talking with one another and sharing information. And from this group of people, we were able to build up a team of volunteers. In fact, most of our coding challenges, most of our coding videos, our blog articles, they were created primarily by volunteer contributors from within our community. So these contributors have used Free Code Camp itself, have used donating their time and energy, volunteering their time and energy to Free Code Camp. They've used this as a ladder to get jobs at companies like Spotify, GitHub, Samsung, and a whole lot of other companies working as developers. So a lot of people who are trying to get a job, it's hard to get a job when you don't have any experience, but we give you an experience by contributing directly to Free Code Camp. You can help build projects for us, and also a big part of Free Code Camp is we build open source projects for lots of other nonprofits. So when you go to apply for a job, even if it's your first developer job, you can point to projects you've built as an example of what you're capable of. So we've grown very slowly and steadily over the past 30 months. We now have about 500,000 people who use Free Code Camp every month, and that number is steadily growing. Again, we did not take any venture capital money. We did not hire a bunch of marketers. We've spent $0 on advertising. Basically, all of our growth has been from campers telling other campers, hey, you should check out Free Code Camp. So we're a community first. Our goal is to help the members of our community, the campers, get developer jobs. And so far we've helped about 5,000 campers get their first developer job. And that's how we judge our success, not by the number of people who use Free Code Camp to learn. We think that's great. There are a lot of kids that use Free Code Camp as well, but our primary audience is working age adults, most of whom who have already finished university and want to transition from their current career into software development. We exist to serve those campers. That's the reason why Free Code Camp is here. And our open source community is here just to help those people get good jobs. And if we fail at that, then we need to reevaluate. But again, we've helped 5,000 people get their first developer job, and I think that amount of people getting jobs will increase as our community continues to grow. So we're an idealistic organization. We feel very strongly about free education. We feel very strongly about people being able to go out and donate money to our nonprofit and then have us turn around and use that money to help even more people learn to code. And we also feel very strongly about anyone being able to use our curriculum completely free, and that it's completely self-paced, and ideally that everything runs right in a browser. So you can use Free Code Camp from any device. You can use it from your laptop, you can use it from your phone, you can use it from a public computer at a school library if you need to. So Free Code Camp's future plans are we're going to be building a lot more coding challenges. We're going to be creating a whole lot more articles and videos. We have thousands of these articles and videos that you can see on medium.com and on YouTube. And we're also going to continue to create more powerful tools for schools and universities to be able to use Free Code Camp in a classroom setting. But we're just one open source community. There are a lot of great open source communities out there, and they're making a substantial difference in the world. They're making the world a better place. And our hopes are some of these lessons that we've learned can be applied more generally by other communities. Let's talk about some successful open source communities. So for example, Wikipedia, which many of you have heard of, is providing free knowledge. It's a free online encyclopedia. WordPress is a very powerful open source tool that has a large community of developers around it, and they've built free blogging software, but within that they've also built a whole lot of e-commerce tools and other tools that can be used for building your own small business, whether that's a blog or whether that's a small shop that's online. Discourse is a relatively new open source community, but what they're building is they're building forum tools to help support communities so communities can communicate more effectively. And Free Code Camp uses Discourse for our forums, and a lot of companies use Discourse now to help organize all their community members. They can be used for alumni networks, they can be used for local communities to help people come together within their local neighborhoods. So very powerful software. And then just announced 2 weeks ago, the same guy who created Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales, is also creating an open source, donor-supported, free newspaper. It'll be like the New York Times, for example, or one of the other major world newspapers, the Washington Post, the BBC. But it will be supported by donors, it will be open source, and it will be free for everyone. It's called Wiki Tribune, and as someone who's actively involved in open source, I'm very excited about this. So I put together a little bit of advice for everyone in the audience who either has an open source community or wants to start one. My first piece of advice is the community leader should be as involved as possible in the community process. This means not delegating a task unless it's necessary to delegate it. So if you can do something yourself, just because you have a whole bunch of people helping you doesn't mean you should just hand it off to whomever. A lot of these tasks will really benefit from having you personally do them. When you answer an email from somebody who's having trouble using your piece of software, for example, that adds a personal touch. And it also keeps you connected to the people who are the end users of your open source project and the participants in your community. Being visible within the community on social media, you can write regularly about things that are going on in your community. You can go and visit events within your community. That helps raise the morale of everyone involved. And just always being in leader mode and keeping in mind that a whole lot of people in the community look up to you, and whether you like it or not, you're kind of a mascot for your community. Some other advice I have would be to always err on the side of inclusion. Try to involve as many people as possible. When you have a successful open source community, a lot of people will come out of nowhere and they'll want to be a part of it, and that's great. So see if you can figure out a way that someone can help based on their current skills. If they're new to software development, but they're an experienced writer, for example, perhaps they could help you write documentation, or perhaps they could help you write blog posts. If they're good at video editing, for example, perhaps they could help you produce videos about things going on in your community. Everybody has some background and some skill set that they've developed prior to coming to your community, and you can figure out what that is and figure out how to leverage it and put them productively to work so they can feel like they're a valuable part of your community. You also need to balance the need for quality control against the need for community involvement. Obviously, if you have the resources, you could just hire professionals to do everything. But if you just hire professionals, then the community members don't really feel that level of involvement. So sometimes you have to accept slightly subpar work because it's done by the community member, but that's okay because it's a trade-off. And then I would say you should absolutely have a firm code of conduct so that everybody feels included. And if there are people who join your community who are not very polite or are disrespectful to other people, that you can have a systematic way to help correct that behavior and point out that it's wrong, and if necessary, eject them from the community. We do this all the time within Free Code Camp. When you have 1 million people using your community and being a part of your community, invariably you'll bring in a lot of people who you don't necessarily want to be there, that aren't very friendly or need to go and learn to be a mature adult somewhere else before they come back to your community. So that code of conduct allows you to enforce rules uniformly and not look like you're just picking favorites. So my challenge to you is to go out, find a problem that you know well, that you think can be solved through an open source community, and try to solve it. You probably know of 1 million different problems. When I look out at the news every day, I see so many problems, and there are so many opportunities to make a real difference in the world using open source communities. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Quincy Larson on Medium, where I publish articles several times a week, and you can also email me directly at quincy@freecodecamp.com if you have any questions. I'd love to help you. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.